to allow police to apply for them.
I call the Honourable Member Charles Chauvel.
Thank you, Mr Chairman, for the opportunity to take another call on this part, because what I wanted to do was just finish briefly the point that I was making earlier, and it's just actually been reinforced by Tim McIndoe. The point about the orders regime in this part is, as he says, it involves going to the court and applying for an order from a judge that somebody ought to be compelled to do something. And a judge is going to have to think very, very carefully about issuing a compulsive order, because obviously when you think about the consequences of defying a compulsive order, in these circumstances they're extreme. And there are safeguards and there is a judicial procedure, and that is the very point that I was trying to make in response to Dr Jackie Blue's contribution. Those safeguards just don't exist in respect of the Serious Fraud Office regime, and I just would like some indication, if it's possible, that that is understood on the other side of the House, because we're not saying the regime proposed by this bill is wrong. We're not saying that some people may be, the Labor opposition isn't. What we're saying, and as the Minister knows because I've said it to her myself, what we're saying is there is an insufficiently broad and comprehensive regime here, because it's very obvious that one agency remains outside it. And it isn't good enough, frankly, to say, well, it's all okay because the regime's protective. It is protective, but the SFO's outside it. And until it is actually included, that is a problem. Now, David Parker's got a supplementary order paper that he's spoken to. I think he spoke quite eloquently about the consequences of being compelled to produce a document or to forego the right to silence. What he's done through proposed amendments to clauses 31, 33, 37, 38 and 40 is simply apply the regime with all the protections that Dr Blue described and that Tim McIndoe was speaking about to the Serious Fraud Office's exercises of powers, and we've simply taken the time to go through the Act to work out how it is that you would bring the Serious Fraud Office in, and it's actually not a complicated exercise. And as I said in my earlier contribution, the standing orders now don't bar it, and that has been throughout the correspondence with Simon Power and with Judith Collins the reason advanced largely for not doing it in this bill. So again, I simply ask that government members turn their mind to the problem that we're going to be left with if we don't use this opportunity. Sir, I have a supplementary order paper that addresses some issues in this part as well, and again it deals with an issue that I've talked to the Minister about, and that is whether or not having a 5 and a 7 year threshold in respect of the orders that can be given either in a business or a non-business context is sufficient. And I've suggested a couple of solutions. One was that the Minister might have a power where she could specify offences that were sufficiently serious and they could go in the schedule to the Act. We could have a look at them at the Regulations Review Committee and there'd be parliamentary scrutiny of the proposals, rather than having this blunt instrument of basically 5 or 7 years it's in, otherwise it's not. One of the other proposals that was advanced by David Parker in the correspondence, then by me, and which I've put in the supplementary order paper, is to raise the threshold to 10 years. And what I want to say in this regard is I've had a look at the Crimes Act. There is in New Zealand a technique that is used with sentencing. And if you have a look at, for example, perjury for the sake of the sort of offence that you might want to have included. For very serious perjury, in respect of an offence punishable by over 3 years of imprisonment, punishment is 14 years. For lesser perjury, it's 7 years. For mere false oaths, it's 5 years. For judicial corruption under Section 100, it's 14 years, but simply trying to corrupt a registrar or a non-sworn officer with tenure, it's 7 years. Likewise, Ministers of the Crown, 14 years. Mere MPs or officials, 7 years. So this is the way in which we've crafted our sentencing science, if you like. And what I'm asking is the Minister to consider this sort of flexibility.
Chair.
I call the Honourable Minister Judith Collins.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.